Greetings, dear subscribers and casual listeners of my channel. Have you ever thought about what truly drives a person to embrace the path of darkness? What if evil is not born, but shaped by pain, loss, and ambition? In today's video, you will uncover the tragic and chilling story of the boy who became Lord Voldemort. Tom Riddle, also known as the Dark Lord, he who must not be named, the very embodiment of terror in the wizarding world. He is the villain we all know, a ruthless sorcerer who stops at nothing to achieve his goals. But he wasn't always like this. Once, he was just a boy, one who learned, dreamed, and even had friends. At what point did he transform into the feared Dark Lord? Did the darkness take root in his childhood, or was it a decision he made as an adult? And what was the turning point that led him down this path? Let's unravel the mystery. Wrap yourself in your invisibility cloak, and let's begin. The origins of Tom Riddle. Tom was born into a broken family. His mother, Merope Gaunt, was a pure-blood witch, a direct descendant of Salazar Slytherin. His father, Tom Riddle Sr., was an ordinary muggle, but their love was built on deception. Merope used a love potion to make Tom Sr. fall for her. When she stopped using it, he abandoned her, leaving her pregnant and alone. Weak and destitute, Merope gave birth to her son in a muggle orphanage, where she died shortly after. And so, from the very beginning, Tom Riddle's life was marked by loss, abandonment, and a deep sense of resentment. A troubled childhood. Growing up in the orphanage, Tom was different. Strange things happened around him. Objects moved, animals obeyed his silent commands, and those who crossed him suffered misfortunes. He didn't just have magic, he had control over it, long before he knew what it was. When Albus Dumbledore came to take him to Hogwarts at age 11, the young boy was not surprised. He already knew he was special. He just needed someone to confirm it. The Hogwarts years. A brilliant mind with a dark curiosity. Sorted into Slytherin, Tom quickly became the most gifted student of his generation. His intelligence, charm, and ambition won him followers, students who admired his power and his ability to manipulate others. But Hogwarts also gave him answers about his past. He discovered his connection to Salazar Slytherin and the existence of the Chamber of Secrets. He learned about Horcruxes, the forbidden magic that could grant him immortality. And in his 5th year, he committed his first murder, using the basilisk to kill Myrtle Warren, later known as Moaning Myrtle. By the time he left Hogwarts, Tom Riddle was no longer just a promising student. He had already begun his descent into darkness. The birth of Voldemort. After graduation, Tom sought a position at Hogwarts, but Dumbledore refused him. Rejected, he vanished from the public eye, traveling the world in search of the darkest magic. He delved into forbidden knowledge, seeking ways to cheat death. When he returned, he was no longer Tom Riddle. He had transformed body, mind, and soul into Lord Voldemort. He gathered followers, the Death Eaters, and unleashed terror upon the wizarding world. The war had begun. What truly drove him to evil? Was Voldemort born a monster, or was he made into one? A combination of factors shaped his descent into darkness. Orphanhood and abandonment. He was never loved, never wanted. The pain of rejection festered within him. Pride and lineage, learning he was the heir of Slytherin, fueled his superiority complex. Unmatched ambition. He didn't just want power, he wanted to be the greatest sorcerer who ever lived. Resentment and rage. He despised his muggle father for abandoning him, and his mother for being weak. These forces twisted him into the Dark Lord we know. But the question remains, was there ever a moment when he could have chosen differently? Or was his fate sealed from the very start? Tom Riddle's path to darkness was not an instant transformation, but a slow, deliberate descent fueled by his own choices, ambitions, and the ghosts of his past. The boy who once sought to understand his origins became the man who wanted to erase them. His rejection from Hogwarts as a teacher was a turning point. He had returned to the castle, hoping to gain a position that would allow him to stay close to its ancient secrets. But Dumbledore saw through his charm. The refusal stung. Tom left, but he did not disappear. Instead, he turned to the shadows, seeking power elsewhere. He travelled far beyond Britain, visiting remote corners of the magical world where wizards practiced arts long forgotten or forbidden in the West. He learned from dark sorcerers, studied ancient spells, and tested the limits of his own magic. He did not just seek knowledge, he sought immortality. He had already created his first Horcrux as a teenager, but one was not enough. He wanted to ensure that he could never die. During these years, he abandoned his birth name completely. Tom Riddle was just a reminder of his Muggle father, the man who had denied him, abandoned him, and left him with nothing but a name he despised. He fashioned himself a new identity, a name that would instill fear, a name that would be whispered with terror, Lord Voldemort. By the time he returned to Britain, he was no longer a young, ambitious wizard with a hunger for power. He had become something else. His followers, the Death Eaters, were waiting. They were wizards and witches who had once admired him at Hogwarts, those who shared his belief in the superiority of pure-blood magic. But they were no longer students. They had grown, and so had their devotion. Voldemort did not simply demand loyalty, he inspired obsession. Those who followed him did so not just out of fear, but out of belief that they were part of something greater. He promised them a new world, a world where pure-blood wizards ruled, and Muggles were nothing more than servants or forgotten relics of a past that no longer mattered. He convinced them that the Ministry was weak, that Dumbledore was a threat, that the old order needed to be torn down. He did not declare war immediately. He worked in the shadows, planting spies, corrupting officials, gathering artifacts of power. He learned of the Elder Wand, of magical relics that could make him even stronger. He experimented with more Horcruxes, splitting his soul again and again, each time losing another piece of what made him human. His transformation was not just internal. Those who saw him noticed the changes. His face grew paler, his eyes more snake-like, his very presence unsettling. Some say it was the dark magic that changed him. Others believe that as he severed his soul, he also severed his connection to humanity itself. The first true war in the wizarding world began not with an explosion, but with whispers. People disappeared. Families who opposed him found themselves wiped out overnight. The Ministry denied it at first, but soon the terror was undeniable. The Dark Lord was rising. He targeted the old families first, those who had power but did not share his vision. He offered them a choice: join him or perish. Some resisted, many did not. Those who refused were made examples of, their names erased from history, their fates warnings to others. But for all his power, there was one enemy he could not easily defeat: Albus Dumbledore. The headmaster was the only wizard Voldemort feared. Dumbledore did not simply fight with magic. He fought with knowledge, with alliances, with the quiet confidence of a man who had already seen too much darkness in his life. Their battles were never direct. They were wars of influence, of strategy, of finding allies before the other could. Dumbledore strengthened the Order of the Phoenix, gathering those who dared to stand against Voldemort. And Voldemort, in turn, sought to eliminate them one by one. Then came the prophecy. It was a single prophecy hidden away in the Department of Mysteries, but it changed everything. It spoke of a child, one who would have the power to defeat the Dark Lord, A child born as the 7th month died, a child marked as his equal. There were two possibilities, Neville Longbottom or Harry Potter, but Voldemort made his choice. He went after the Potters. James and Lily Potter had gone into hiding, protected by the Fidelius charm. They trusted their secret to a friend, never knowing that he would betray them. On that fateful night, Voldemort entered Godric's Hollow, knowing that if he destroyed the child, he would ensure his victory. James Potter died first, refusing to run, standing between the Dark Lord and his family. Lily was given a choice, to step aside, to let Voldemort take the child. But she did not move. She shielded her son, knowing that it meant her death. And then the unthinkable happened. The curse rebounded. The killing curse, the one spell that had never failed him, turned against him. Voldemort was torn apart, his body destroyed, his soul fragmenting yet again. He had survived only because of his Horcruxes, but he was no longer whole. The wizarding world rejoiced. The Dark Lord was dead. The war was over. But Voldemort was not gone. He was a shadow, a wraith, barely clinging to existence. He drifted through forests, through cursed places, hiding, waiting. His Death Eaters were scattered, imprisoned or in hiding, denying they had ever served him. And for years he remained nothing more than a whisper. But darkness is never truly vanquished. It waits, it lingers, and it finds a way back. Years later, through deception, through manipulation, through the blind ambition of others, Voldemort returned. He was not the same as before. He was more monstrous, less human, but his goal remained unchanged. He would conquer death. He would rule. He would finish what he started. His war against Harry Potter was different. It was personal. The boy had survived him once, but Voldemort was determined that it would not happen again. He infiltrated the Ministry, took control from within, forced the wizarding world to bow to his will. But for all his power, for all his fearsome magic, Voldemort had one weakness, his own arrogance. He could not understand love. He could not understand sacrifice. He could not see that his greatest enemy was not Harry Potter, but the very things he had rejected: friendship, loyalty, and the courage of those who refused to bow to him. In the final battle, when he faced Harry once more, he believed himself invincible. He held the Elder Wand. He had torn the world apart for this moment. And yet, in the end, it was not enough. He fell, not in a grand explosion, not in a moment of unstoppable power, but in the silence of a duel where he realized too late he had already lost. The name Voldemort had once inspired terror, but now it was nothing more than a memory, a ghost of a man who had tried to defy death and failed. And so ended the tale of the Dark Lord. Or did it? Because evil never truly dies. It lingers in the shadows, waiting for the next one to listen, to follow, to believe that they too can escape fate. But as history has shown, no matter how powerful, no matter how feared, even the darkest of lords must fall in the end.